Grade 12, welcome to Life Orientation, Term 3, Week 3, and we will be talking about careers and career choices. By now, most of you already know what you want to go into next year. So we will go into the employment side of your work. We'll be talking about understanding job contracts and labor laws. Now, it is important to note, grade 12, that once you start with a job, there are some core elements that a job contract entails, and you need to know and be aware of that. Let's look at the scenario above. The lady in the yellow t-shirt is saying, "I'm so excited, Jessica. I've got a job and I start work on Monday." And the lady in the orange, which is Jessica, is replying, "That's great, Thalika. What will you be doing and how much will they pay you?" And then Thalika says, "I am not sure. They just said to start on Monday." And this is very scary, grade 12, that you don't know how much you will earn, how many hours you'll be working, and what conditions you'll be working under. So once you go into the labor force, make sure that you know exactly what is expected of you. So let's continue reading. When you start a new job, you will enter into an employment contract with your employer. So you will sign a contract. This contract will contain specific details about number one, your position, your hours that you'll be working, and your remuneration pay, and then also other relevant details. In this section, we will look at workers' rights and obligations so that you understand what to expect from the employer and also what the employer expects from you. At 1.1, we will look at worker rights and obligations. We'll be focusing in this video only on the workers' rights and also the obligations. Employees and employers are involved in a relationship based on two things: trust and loyalty. This means that the employees trust that employers to pay their salaries at the end of the month, and employers in return trust that the employees to be loyal and to do their work as well as possible. However, both employees and employers have specific rights that are protected by the law. It is important to find a way to balance the rights of both parties to ensure a fair and successful employment relationship. Remember, your employer is in a relationship with you and you want to enjoy working for that person. Now, just think that when you are in a job and there's no good understanding between you and the employer, just think about how will you work? How would you feel working there? You might feel tense, you might feel stressed, and so on. Remember, with every right, there is an obligation. Example, the employer has the right, or the employee has the right to safe working conditions. And therefore, the employer has an obligation to that the employee works in a safe workplace. So as an employer, you do have the right to work in a safe environment. And the employer has the obligation to make sure that you work in a safe environment. Now let's look at the general employee rights. Most employers treat their employees fairly because they realize that they need loyal, trustworthy workers to help their business grow. Now, grade 12, let's think about this. If you are a restaurant owner and you have a very bad and terrible relationship with your workers, just think all the clients that will be coming through those doors. Your employers will maybe have long faces, they'll be unhappy, they'll give bad client services, And do you think that those people will come back? They probably won't come back to your restaurant. Why? Because they received very bad services. And that will, at the end of the day, be a problem for the business owner when it comes to the growth of the business. All right. So, do you see the effect that a negative or a bad employer-employee relationship has on the business? But I want us to focus on the rights of the employer. Workers in South Africa enjoy the following general rights in the workplace. Number one, you can number them from 1 to 7. There's a few that I think is important. These 7 there. To receive the agreed salary or payment on the agreed date and time. So if you and the employer are in agreement that you will, say for instance, receive an amount of 5,000 Rand at the end of the month, say on the 25th, then you expect that the employer will pay you your 5,000 Rand and not less at the exact date and time. That is loyalty. You trust that the employer will pay them. Leave benefits and other basic conditions of employment according to the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. And now we will talk about that on a later stage. To be treated fairly and with respect, dignity. You have the right to that. Not to be discriminated against and unfairly dismissed. To work under safe working conditions. You have the right to be able to work under safe working conditions. To be supplied with the necessary resources and equipment for the job that must be done. So grade 12, whenever you start to work and it is expected to do whatever tasks, the employer must provide you with the necessary resources and the equipment. You cannot do a job without the necessary equipment. It is your right to demand or to ask that those things needs to be provided to you. Not to be victimized if they have claimed their rights and use the grievance and complaints procedure in the workplace. So say for instance you were treated unfairly and you follow the grievance process or procedure and you go to the CCMA and you do all of those things and you come back to your work, the employer, he may not, or she may not victimize you. That is your right. Just because you now went to do that, they can't victimize you. Let's look at a few examples. There are many ways that an employee may be victimized. The person may not be allowed to take time off. You maybe want to take time off, but now the employer says, no, you can't do that. You're the one that followed the grievance process or procedure. Not to be promoted or not to be allowed to go for extra training, ignored by the managers or other employees. They are not allowed to do that. It is your right to submit the grievance procedure and follow that. So they're not allowed to victimize you. Grade 12, let's continue to the general employee obligation. As much as you have rights, you also have certain obligations. Now let's look at the scenario here. The employer is sharing his thoughts there with us. Let's just see what he is saying. As an employer, he says, I have an obligation to keep the terms of the employment contract. For example, I have to pay you the salary we agreed on every month, and I am not allowed to cut your holiday or sick leave benefits to suit the company. Then the employee is saying, I understand that I also have obligations. For example, I may not stay away from work whenever I want to. I must be at work on time, and I may not leave the workplace without permission or take sick leave by pretending to be sick when I'm not. This is a beautiful example where there is trust and loyalty between the two parties. Grade 12, I will stop there because this video is only about the contract and the rights of the employee and the obligations. I hope that in this video I've shared information with you that makes this more easier for you to understand.